What if a poor boy from a small Mediterranean island could one day rule most of Europe? A quiet child who loved reading more than playing. A young soldier with an impossible dream. And a man whose name would change history forever. This is the incredible story of Napoleon Bonaparte, the boy who became one of the greatest military leaders and the Emperor of France. Welcome to English Orbit. As you listen, pay attention to the vocabulary, pronunciation, and sentence structure to improve your English naturally. Now let's begin. The boy who dreamed of greatness. Napoleon Bonaparte was born on August 15, 1769, on the beautiful island of Corsica in the Mediterranean Sea. At that time, Corsica had recently become part of France. Many local people wanted their island to remain independent, and young Napoleon grew up hearing stories about bravery, freedom, and resistance. Although his family belonged to the local nobility, they were not wealthy. His father, Carlo Bonaparte, worked as a lawyer, while his mother, Letizia Ramolino, was known for her discipline and strong character. Napoleon later said that his mother's strict upbringing helped shape his determination and self-control. As a child, Napoleon was different from most boys. Instead of spending hours playing games, he loved reading books. He admired famous military leaders such as Alexander the Great, Julius Caesar, and Hannibal. He carefully studied their victories and wondered what made a great leader. He also enjoyed studying maps and history. Even at a young age, he dreamed of achieving something extraordinary. When Napoleon was only 9 years old, his parents sent him to France to study at a military school. Leaving his family and homeland was difficult. Life at school was even harder. Most students came from rich French families. Napoleon spoke French with a strong Corsican accent, and many classmates laughed at him. They made fun of his background and treated him like an outsider. But instead of becoming angry or giving up, Napoleon focused on his education. He believed that knowledge could earn respect. Military school was strict. Students woke up early, trained every day, and followed strict rules. Napoleon accepted this discipline because he believed success required hard work. His favorite subject was mathematics. He quickly realized that mathematics was essential for military strategy. It helped commanders calculate distances, position artillery, and plan battles. His teachers soon recognized his intelligence. Although he was not the most popular student, he became one of the brightest. Napoleon also spent countless hours in the library reading military history. He studied famous battles and asked himself important questions. Why do some armies win while others lose? How does a great leader make difficult decisions? Without realizing it, he was preparing himself for the future. At the age of 16, Napoleon graduated from military school and became a second lieutenant in the French army. For a young man from a modest family, this was a remarkable achievement. But Napoleon believed it was only the beginning. A few years later, France entered one of the most important periods in its history. In 1789, the French Revolution began. The old system collapsed, and many experienced officers left the army. Suddenly, young and talented soldiers had new opportunities to rise. Napoleon knew this was his chance. His first great opportunity came in 1793 during the siege of Toulon. The important port city had been captured by forces opposing the French Revolution, and the government needed capable officers to retake it. Napoleon was placed in charge of the artillery. Instead of following traditional methods, he carefully studied the battlefield. He identified the enemy's weakest positions and moved his cannons with great precision. When the attack began, his strategy worked perfectly. The French army captured Toulon, and the victory amazed military leaders across the country. Almost overnight, Napoleon became known as one of France's most talented young officers. He was only 24 years old, but people were already calling him a military genius. His intelligence, confidence, and ability to make quick decisions set him apart from other commanders. The quiet boy from the small island of Corsica had taken his first great step toward history. But this was only the beginning. Soon, Napoleon would lead entire armies, win impossible battles, and begin a journey that would change Europe forever. From general to emperor. After the victory at Toulon, Napoleon Bonaparte became one of France's most promising young officers. His confidence grew with every success. In 1796, at just 26 years old, he was given command of the French army of Italy. Many older generals doubted him. His soldiers were tired, hungry, and poorly equipped. Their uniforms were worn out, and their morale was low. When Napoleon met his army, he gave them a powerful speech. He told them that although they were poor, they had the opportunity to achieve greatness through courage and determination. His words inspired the soldiers. Soon, they would discover that their young commander was unlike any leader they had served before. Napoleon believed that speed was one of the greatest weapons in war. Instead of fighting one large battle, he attacked enemy armies separately. He moved quickly, surprised his opponents, and defeated them one after another. His brilliant strategy shocked experienced generals across Europe. Victory followed victory. The Italian campaign made Napoleon a national hero. His soldiers respected him because he shared their hardships, visited wounded men, and rewarded bravery instead of social status. For them, he was more than a general. He was a leader worth following. After his success in Italy, the French government gave Napoleon another important mission. In 1798, he led an expedition to Egypt. His goal was to weaken Britain's trade by controlling an important route between Europe and Asia. The campaign began successfully. The French army defeated Egyptian forces near the famous pyramids. Napoleon is believed to have told his soldiers, "From the heights of these pyramids, 40 centuries looked down upon you." But the expedition was not only about war. Napoleon also brought scientists, engineers, artists, and scholars with him. They studied ancient Egyptian history and recorded valuable discoveries. One of the most famous discoveries was the Rosetta Stone, which later helped historians understand ancient Egyptian writing. Although the military campaign eventually faced difficulties, Napoleon's interest in science and education earned him great respect. While he was in Egypt, France entered another period of political crisis. The government became weak, and many people believed the country needed a strong leader. Napoleon secretly returned to France. In 1799, with the support of important military and political leaders, he helped overthrow the government. This event became known as the coup of 18 Brumaire. A new government was created, and Napoleon became the first consul of France. Although France was still officially a republic, Napoleon now held most of the real power. Once in office, he focused on rebuilding the nation. He improved government administration, repaired roads and bridges, strengthened the economy, and supported education. He believed that a strong country needed good schools, fair laws, and capable leaders. One of his greatest achievements was creating the Napoleonic Code. Before this reform, different parts of France followed different legal systems. Napoleon introduced one clear set of laws for the entire country. The new code protected property rights, promoted equality before the law for many citizens, and influenced legal systems in many countries around the world. His impact was no longer limited to the battlefield. He was now transforming the nation itself. By 1804, Napoleon had become the most powerful man in France. During a grand ceremony inside Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris, something unforgettable happened. Traditionally, a pope placed the crown on the ruler's head. But Napoleon took the crown himself. Then he placed it on his own head. With that single act, he sent a clear message. His power came from his achievements, not from anyone else's permission. At the age of 35, Napoleon Bonaparte became Emperor of the French. Yet his ambition continued to grow. In 1805, several European nations united against France. They believed Napoleon had become too powerful. The two sides met at the famous Battle of Austerlitz, often called the Battle of the Three Emperors. Although the enemy had larger forces, Napoleon used brilliant strategy. He deliberately appeared weak, encouraging his opponents to attack. Then, at the perfect moment, he launched a powerful counterattack. The enemy army collapsed. The victory at Austerlitz became one of the greatest military achievements in history. Military academies still study the battle today because of Napoleon's remarkable leadership and strategic thinking. After Austerlitz, Napoleon ruled much of Europe. The boy who had once been mocked for his accent had become the most feared and respected commander on the continent. But as his empire grew larger, so did the number of his enemies. Soon, Napoleon would face the greatest challenge of his life, one that would change his destiny forever: the fall of an emperor and his legacy. By the early 1800s, Napoleon Bonaparte ruled much of Europe. His victories had made France the most powerful nation on the continent. Kings feared him. Generals studied his strategies. And millions of people admired his leadership. For a time, it seemed that nothing could stop him. But history often teaches us that the greater the success, the greater the challenges. Napoleon wanted to defeat Britain, but the British Royal Navy controlled the seas. Instead of attacking Britain directly, he introduced the continental system, which banned European countries under French control from trading with Britain. Napoleon hoped this would damage the British economy. However, the plan created unexpected problems. Many European countries depended on British goods. Trade slowed down, prices increased, and smuggling became common. Even some of Napoleon's allies secretly ignored his orders. At the same time, another serious conflict began in Spain. Napoleon replaced the Spanish king with his own brother, believing it would strengthen French influence. Instead, the Spanish people fought back. They launched surprise attacks, destroyed supply routes, and refused to surrender. This long conflict weakened the French army and consumed valuable resources. But Napoleon's greatest mistake came in 1812. He decided to invade Russia. Confident after years of victory, he gathered one of the largest armies Europe had ever seen, more than 600,000 soldiers. At first, everything seemed to go according to plan. But the Russian army avoided major battles. Instead, they retreated deeper into the country, burning villages, destroying crops, and removing supplies behind them. As Napoleon's army marched farther into Russia, food became scarce. The soldiers grew tired and hungry. When they finally reached Moscow, they expected to find supplies and shelter. Instead, much of the city was on fire. There was almost nothing left to support the army. Then winter arrived. The freezing temperatures, hunger, disease, and constant attacks turned the retreat into one of the greatest military disasters in history. Only a small part of Napoleon's army returned to France. For the first time, Europe realized that Napoleon could be defeated. Soon, Britain, Russia, Prussia, Austria, and several other nations formed a powerful alliance against him. Although Napoleon continued fighting with incredible determination, his enemies now had larger armies and greater resources. In 1813, he suffered a major defeat at the Battle of Leipzig. His empire began to collapse. The following year, enemy forces entered Paris. Napoleon was forced to give up his throne and was sent into exile on the small island of Elba. Many people believed his story had ended, but Napoleon refused to give up. Less than a year later, he escaped from Elba and returned to France. When soldiers were sent to arrest him, Napoleon walked toward them alone and declared, "If any man wishes to kill his emperor, here I am." Instead of attacking him, the soldiers joined him. Within weeks, Napoleon was once again Emperor of France. This dramatic return became known as the 100 Days. However, Europe quickly united against him. On June 18, 1815, Napoleon fought his final battle near the village of Waterloo in present-day Belgium. Heavy rain, communication problems, and the arrival of fresh enemy troops changed the course of the battle. After hours of fierce fighting, Napoleon was defeated. This time, there would be no second chance. He surrendered to the British and was sent to the remote island of St. Helena in the South Atlantic Ocean. Far away from Europe, he spent the last years of his life reading, writing, and reflecting on his achievements and mistakes. On May 5, 1821, Napoleon Bonaparte died at the age of 51. Although his empire had disappeared, his influence remained. His military strategies are still studied in academies around the world. His Napoleonic Code influenced legal systems in many countries. His educational and administrative reforms shaped modern governments for generations. Napoleon's life also teaches us valuable lessons. Dream big, no matter where you come from. Never stop learning. Discipline and preparation create opportunities. But success should always be balanced with wisdom and humility. Confidence can help us achieve great things, but overconfidence can lead to costly mistakes. Napoleon Bonaparte's journey is one of history's most remarkable stories. A boy from a small island became one of the world's greatest military leaders, ruled an empire, changed Europe forever, and left behind lessons that continue to inspire people more than 2 centuries later. And that brings us to the end of the incredible story of Napoleon Bonaparte. From a quiet boy growing up on the island of Corsica to one of history's most powerful emperors, his journey reminds us that knowledge, discipline, ambition, and determination can transform an ordinary life into an extraordinary one. We hope this story has helped improve your English listening skills while inspiring you to dream bigger and keep learning. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss another inspiring story from English Orbit. Thank you for listening. Keep learning. Keep growing.